Hello and welcome. Welcome to another edition of Voices of Genius. I'm very pleased to be here with all of you today for this special edition with Gregg Braden that we recorded for Global Oneness Day to celebrate not only our oneness, but to celebrate humanity's team that has been doing an extraordinary amount of work across our globe for over 15 years now. I encourage you to explore humanity's team and all of Gregg Braden's offerings and work that he's done for over 40-something years now. Wow. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get started and let's check in with Gregg and see what's going on this amazing planet and challenge planet that we share. And, you know, we're wired, as you were talking about, we're wired for that divinity, that divine experience. We're wired to step into, walk the beauty way, to be in the shyness of beauty, to invite it to surround us, but to also engage in this greater potential, this greater experience that I also sense that we're wired to. And, you know, you referenced this, we're just at the precipice of this, you know, seminal moment in human history. What an extraordinary time to be alive, my friends. But this technological revolution has just been dropped at our doorstep. And we've been connected in the web and all the things that have been going on. But I got a feeling we haven't seen nothing yet. No. Because the era of AI and supercomputing and quantum computing has arrived, and the world is radically changing in every way, probably more than we could ever even imagine, almost possible. But there's, like you referenced, Gregg, there's some good news here.
Sure.
And I see that the good news is that we too are supercomputers, but we have the heart. You know, we have the heart, we have the soul, we have consciousness. And I'm sensing that there's this little micro piece of ourselves, down even at the cellular level, that's like this quantum chip that is now beginning to reveal itself. We're now being able to come into the science and exploration of this in our biofields. And personally, I feel like we're at the doorway. We're at like a threshold to really discover this quantum chip. And we've been talking a little bit about some of the challenges of finding and discovering that deeper truth, that deep truth of who we are. And I'd be curious about this because, you know, you mentioned that our physiological nature, our biological nature, Gregg, our psychological nature is greatly challenged to really keep up with this great rate of change, which is happening far greater than I think we can really handle, right? So I kind of believe that, the quantum physicist and the quantum scientist in their relationship with the quantum field, and in particular, the four quantum phenomena of duality, entanglement, unknown, and superposition, which is the oneness. I think this offers us maybe some clues about tapping in and unleashing let's just say that quantum nature, that genius nature. And how do you think, Gregg, how can we kind of move beyond this dualistic divide to entangle ourselves in this unknown field of connection and really discover our interconnectivity once and for all, and really walk that beauty? Could you give us a little bit of lens as it relates to that science and that connection and that leap that we're about to go through in this technological revolutionary age?
Adam, this could be the whole conversation. And I'm going to acknowledge, I'm just going to acknowledge right now, I want to do this conversation justice. We're going to run over what we had agreed to, and I'm fine with that. By a few minutes. Yes. As I mentioned, I have another interview and they know I'm doing this. So I just want to say that as we're going into this. Yeah. This is one of those beautiful places where science and spirituality come together in just the right way at just the right time. It may not have made sense 50 years ago to have this conversation because the world was in a different place. But here's what the science is telling us, is beginning in the year 2012, scientists confirmed that there is, in fact, a field that underlies all existence, a field of energy. Now, our community has always talked about that, and we say, of course, everything's connected. But in the scientific world, this is a big deal because up until 2012, they had theorized it, they'd hypothesized it, they'd done experiments, and they were not able to detect this field. As far back as 1888 with the Michelson-Morley experiment. They were trying to detect this field. They said it's not there. Beginning in 2012, the field was validated. Here's what we now know. This field that underlies all existence. There are properties of this field. You mentioned some of them. The field is entangled. And what that means is that all of the physical particles, while they may be separated in space, they are connected energetically. The field is holographic. We'll talk about that in a moment. The field is fractal. We'll talk about that in a moment. But here's where the science really took a huge leap, because what we know is the average human body is made of about 50 trillion or so cells, whatever average body is. 50 trillion cells. You can't even wrap your mind around 50 trillion. I mean, what's a trillion even look like? Each one of those cells has over 100 trillion atoms inside the cell. And this is where it gets really interesting, Adam, because every one of those atoms is constantly emerging from this field and collapsing back into the field as information, as light. Light. So when we talk about the field, I'll go to a scientific conference and there are well-known scientists, and they still do this. They'll stand on the podium and their hand will say, oh, yeah, there's a field out there that connects everything. Look at what it's out there. What they're missing is that we are the field. We are literally disturbances in this otherwise homogeneous field. And my disturbance is called the Gregg Show. And my divinity, my consciousness, is holding in place the template within which those atoms, when they emerge from the field, they will fill in the space of this template that is formed through my consciousness. It's the way I think of myself, the way I perceive myself, the story I tell myself about myself and believe. This is the beauty of why healing and spontaneous healing is possible, because we are constantly changing. Those atoms right now are constantly emerging and collapsing into the field as a dance. Our brain averages it out to look like we're solid beings, but we are dynamic, energetic systems. If you want to change in your body, when you change the blueprint, the template that those atoms are falling into, that they're filling, that's how you bring about that change. Well, this is where these principles come together. The principle of entanglement says that my atoms and your atoms aren't really so separate, that we are actually connected on levels that we're only beginning to understand energetically. Hologram, and a true hologram, every piece of the hologram reflects all of the other elements of the hologram. Just a really quick story. Back in the 1980s, when the New Age community was first emerging, you go into these New Age bookstores and they'd have these beautiful shiny bookmarks, foil bookmarks, and they would have three-dimensional images on them. There was one that was like a dolphin jumping over the Great Pyramid, and one was a rose that was in bloom, one was Mother Mary's face. And because they were holographic, they looked like they were floating above your hand, when you'd hold it in the light. Well, here's the deal. With a true hologram, you could take one of those and a pair of scissors and cut it into 1 million pieces and take the smallest piece and put it under a magnifier, and you would see the whole picture in every one of those, because it is holographic. We are holographic to some degree. We reflect all of and what we become in our lives is reflected in the world around us. That is why we hold such potential. Fractal patterns are similar patterns that repeat on different scales. So typically when you think of an atom, you think of a nucleus and things moving around that nucleus. When you think of a solar system, you think of a sun and planets moving around the sun. When you think of a galaxy, you think of the center of the galaxy and solar systems moving around. It's exactly the same pattern on different scales. So we say that an atom is a fractal pattern of the solar system. We are fractal patterns of our humanness. When you put these together, I know this is really fast. When you put these together, what it says is we're very powerful beings.
Yeah.
And it says that the choices that we make in our lives are not limited to the boundary of our flesh and blood and where the air touches our skin. Your choice doesn't end there. The good news is that when we choose a healthy way of responding to the chaos in the world, and we live that choice in our lives, our choice becomes the energetic bridge that makes it easier for another person on the other side of the planet or in the room next to us or sitting in the same seat with us. It makes it easier for them to make that choice because we are holographic, because we are fractal, and because we are entangled. We are connected. By the way, the Nobel Prize in Physics 2002 just went to the physicists that demonstrated the principle of entanglement as a very real property that can be known and engineered. So what does that mean for us?
Yeah.
You don't have to know any of this. Sometimes it helps to know this for a context, and then you can let it go. Because in your heart and in your mind, now you know, okay, what I do is important. What I do makes a difference. And what it says to us, I think, Adam, is the bottom line is that we must become in our lives the things that we choose to experience in the world. We want a better world. It's not so much about going out there and doing it. You can, but when we become the peace, the love, the cooperation, the forgiveness in our own lives, then we can expect to see that reflected. And when a society begins to do that, it's interesting because then the technology they choose reflects those principles. The policies that they enact, the laws that they create, the society that they build will reflect those values and those principles because we have become those values and those principles. That's a very different idea than living in a disconnected world of separation and trying to engineer a society of oneness and wholeness from that place of separation and fear and hate. So when our divinity is what gives us the power to transcend the fear and to transcend the hate. When we embrace our own humanness and our human divinity, we can become in our lives the things that we choose to experience in the world. And that's when the world changes in front of our eyes. And we're seeing that happen. We're seeing that happen now. And I think we'll see a cascade effect. We see a relatively few number of people in pockets that have done this, and more people now are waking up, literally waking up and saying, wow, I didn't know these things were possible. And I think that is what this little window of time is all about.
I want to thank everybody for joining us, for being here with us in this little extraordinary journey that we've been on for the last 45 minutes or so to receive this great invitation to walk the beauty way, to embrace our interconnectedness, however you may take that journey, scientifically, energetically, spiritually, whatever it may be. We're all here together, and it's a great honor to be sharing this amazing planet with all of you. So thank you, and bless you all, and be well, Gregg.
Thank you so much. I look forward to our next. Thank you all for sharing part of your day with us today. We appreciate it.